This is this is a quick video tutorial on the library research project, and I have a visual guide that is pretty self-explanatory, but I just wanted to kind of help navigate the process a little bit. Normally, you'd be able to go onto campus, and the librarians would be able to help you, but given the circumstances, I don't know what the resources are going to be or your ability to get to campus. So everything is accessible online as long as you have active Harper credentials. So if you're able to log into Blackboard and get into your SIS, your student portal, you should be able to access the library no problem. So if you go to the Harper College website, you want to get to the library website. And if you scroll straight down, I'm sure there's another way, but if you go straight down here to the library, click on that. And I have a link directly to the library page from the Blackboard shell. But what we want to do is right here is your one search, and you could actually start right here. And if you just do, let's do it stretching, and you search, you're going to get a boatload of things. And you can start there if you'd like, but you're going to be digging through so much. So just in the future, but you're going to get books, you're going to get magazines, and you want none of this. You want journal articles. So you have about 300,000 journal articles. So if I click on journal article, and then you go ahead and start reading, right? But of course, stretching is too broad of a term. You want to be a little bit more specific. Again, if you've read the visual guide that I have in the Blackboard shell, when your search terms is that you want to be specific. So give a type of stretching, active stretching, passive stretching, and I think it will populate if I do passive stretching. Maybe not here, but in the EBSCOhost it will. And then an outcome, let's say like injury, and do a search that way. You'll see that it goes from like 300,000 to 10,000, right? Not bad, but I have other things that I can do to get this down. And you want to be looking through maybe a couple dozen articles, and that's actually a little too much, but 12 to 15 at a time based on your search terms. And once you find one, you can start like using some of the search terms from there. But let's go back to the library. And where you actually want to start is you want to see how you mouse over here and you get these drop-down menus. So you want to go to research, and you want to actually pick your databases. So you're going to click on databases. And I like the CINAHL here for the allied health. So I click on that, and it doesn't matter because you're going to get the EBSCOhost, but this is perfect. I'm glad it's doing this. So since you're not on campus, you're going to be asked to put in your credentials. And so what you're going to do is you're going to put in your username and then your password that you use for Blackboard or SIS. Should be pretty consistent. And this is the screen that you're looking to get to, right? So this is your research screen. This is the EBSCOhost. And right now it's telling me I'm searching in CINAHL, but I can click on here and choose databases, and I can add different databases. So I can go down through here and add Health Source, and I don't want to add the consumer edition. I want the nursing academic. I can do, and I think I have it linked there for the ones that you want to do, but let's just do those two for now. And okay. I also want to change my search options, so I'm going to go here to search options. I want to make sure I have access to full text. I want to make sure that there's scholarly journals. So this one right here, I want to click that. And the reason why I want to click that is I want the peer-reviewed status. So the term article is general, right? Is it a newspaper article, a magazine article? Is it a blog post? Is it a vlog? And none of those are really good evidence. Not saying there's not good information there, but what peer-reviewed mean in these journals is that a researcher submits his stuff, their stuff, and a group, a peer, they review it and they either approve it or they deny it, right? So other experts in the field are able to say, yes, this was quality done. And they're not really commenting on the results, but they're commenting on the methodology and the data interpretation of and the statistical analysis of the results. So you want peer reviewed, and then you want within the last 10 years. So you can publish, let's just say 2011. And I think that is, that's it. So let's go search. Oh, I forgot to put the term in there. So it's going to search a bunch of stuff. Let's do stretching. And you can see as I populate stretching in the EBSCOhost database, it starts to give me a whole bunch of stuff. So, oh, look at this. Passive versus active versus dietic. Okay, looks like, and that's not my search term. Someone else had searched that before, or it's a popular search term. And now I have 23,000 results. So I can go through here and I can kind of whittle this down a little bit more through journals. Let's click journals. And I think I have an age there already in there. It's perfect from 2011, 2020. Perfect. So I have a lot of search terms here. So it's saying or. If I switch these to and, but let's say passive stretching. And let's talk about muscle performance. And I have 17. Perfect. So you see how when I was specific with my search terms, now I only have 17 things I have to scan through. And I can look at some of the titles. And you can look at the titles itself and say, okay, this is looking at spasticity and hemiplegia. So this is looking more at like spinal cord injury. And if you're looking at a bunch of words here and you don't really know what it is, I maybe just hold off for that for now. And you might come back to that. But if I come here and I look at like, okay, the acute passive stretching, okay, so does not affect muscular activity of the hamstring. So this might be something that I might want to do. And I can look here. So let's click on, let's see, influence of two stretching protocols. Let's click on this article. Okay, so when I click on it, it presents me with the title of the article, same thing you saw. Gives me the authors. So in case you might recognize the authors, some people do or not. What you want to look at first is you want to come down to the abstract. And you don't want to start reading right away like you would think you would do. Like what you want to do is actually go to the last sentence or so and see what they found. They're going to tell you the acute effects of passive stretching did not significantly influence patterns of electrical force production, right? So one of the complaints or one of the consequences of passive static stretching that has been shown in previous research was that it decreased max voluntary output. So what this article is looking at is confirming that. They're looking to see if it had any effect on it. And in this case, what they've concluded was that it did not have a negative impact on force production of the hamstring. So that's kind of an interesting component. It's counter to the game that's coming out. So then if this is something you want to look at, then what you would do is you would click on the full text. It's going to populate a PDF. And then is this not in English? Okay, good. It's in English. You start to read through, here's the abstract again, and then it is not in English. So there should be an English version here. So not a good article. Let's go back to our refined search. And I think it can say language. There's a way for language. I thought I saw it. Well, I don't see it here. Let's go to this one. Okay, so I played around a little bit here. When you go to advanced search here, this allows you the option of picking the English language. So you can hit English language. And what I did then is my search terms were too precise, so I backed off. I just put stretching and muscle performance. So I'm looking at any type of stretching and muscle performance, and we're going to see what pops up here. And so there's quite a bit here. We can look at the acute static stretch on maximal muscle performance. This is a review aspect. Let's click on this guy and see what happens. So if we look here, the article reports, let's go back to 90% here. Here we go, perfect. So they found that the detrimental effects of static stretching are limited to longer duration, 60-second stretches, and that during athletic population, so for younger athletic populations, that less than 60 seconds, if you wanted to do a static stretch, it would not compromise maximal performance. So this is actually shows that it's a benefit. It doesn't really show what benefit is like. So it's still not saying. Let's read it. Let's see what happens. Oh, okay. So we don't have full text article for this. This is why you want to have full text article. So you would have to do an interlibrary loan because our library does not subscribe to this journal. But let's do this. Let's just highlight this title and see if we can find it through somewhere else. So we'll go to ResearchGate. So you can join for free. I should be logged in here. I'm not. So let's not do this one. Let's do this article. And we have a full text here. Oh, let's read it first and make sure it's article we want to. So this is looking at so FT up here is referring to flexibility training, and the influence might have an influence on dynamic muscle performance, but they were kind of inconclusive. They were unable to really see any type of positive effect, and so I guess they're looking. So this would actually be an appropriate article to use for neutral or non-negative. So when you're trying to find your 6 articles, 3 that show the benefits of stretching and 3 that show the detriments that it shouldn't do it, you're not going to find as many that come out and say don't do stretching. What they're going to do is say it's inconclusive. So this article would actually be so far a decent article for one of your 3 that are neutral or inconclusive. So let's look at the full text. And you'll go through and you would read through the article and kind of see what they did. And so here's the introduction. You can see there's quite a bit more. There's 5 or 6 more sections: introduction, methods, the data analysis. You got your results, so you can kind of go through and look through. And again, if this is your first time looking through articles, it's going to take you a little while to get used to it. And that's really what the intent of this assignment is. It's not meant. I'm not going to really look at the quality of your interpretation. It's going to be more of navigating the process, kind of bumping along the way, and enough for you to for you as a consumer of information, of fitness information, instead of relying on blog posts and magazines, you can actually use databases, go through, look at some articles. When someone says, oh, a new study came out and said this, great, that's someone's interpretation. Can you go through and look at it and make your own conclusion from it? And then to realize that there is a plethora of information out there. Only small amounts of information actually make it to the mainstream, and there is quite a bit of information. And it takes, unfortunately, in the medical field, it takes a decade for things to actually become more popular and mainstream. This whole stretching thing, which 15, maybe 20 years ago, just started to become, 2005 was when the first article really came out that questioned that, hey, stretching might not be everything it's meant to be. And then 5 years after that, people started realizing, well, there's different types, and this is better for this, and this is better for that. And then now it's all over the place. People are like, maybe we shouldn't stretch. But at least people have an understanding of that. But it does take a while. But for you as a consumer to be able to go through and look at some evidence and look at some understanding, the more you look at it, the more it makes sense, and the more helpful it becomes for your career in the future. But let's go back here. So let's say we like this article. So this is the title. And what I would do is I would open up a Word document, which I already have opened here. Let me just start a new one. Or whatever you're going to use, whether it's Google Docs or whatever. I just use Office here. I'll use Word. Okay, so I need my 6 articles that are pro. This one is a neutral one. So I'm going to get the article title there. I'm going to populate it here in my document. And then what I need the citation. So I'm going to go over here to the tools on the right and get the citation. I want to make sure I'm using the APA reference. And so it's right here. I need the link for it so that when you submit this, honestly, why I do this is if you guys find some really good articles, I want to read them too. And I want to be able to access them right away. So just do that permalink. And then I do want the copy of the abstract. So you'll just copy and paste the abstract. That's it. So just make sure you kind of have this divided up in a way that show like your pro stretching or positive towards however you want to positive. And you have one, and you're going to have 3 positive, if I spell it right. And then you're going to have 3 that are neutral. This one's actually neutral or negative. And again, don't worry about my spelling. That's what spell check's for. And so you have your 3 articles here. And that's it. That's part 1 of the assignment. And if you, on the Blackboard shell here, I lost Blackboard, here it is. Under this review stretching, you have your assignment documents here. This first here is kind of a quick narrative. This is a handout that we use for the in-class aspect, but it's basically replaced to the visual steps here, this whole section here of these, basically all these steps that I kind of took you through. But if you open up that document here, you'll see that it kind of goes through and gives you some search terms and talks about the search, gives you some alternatives. But I think what you want to focus on is your assignment. And part 1 of the assignment is you're going to locate 6 unique research articles, 3 that are positive, 3 that are neutral or negative. And remember, you're not going to come out and say negative, but just like inconclusive. And that's it. And you're going to copy and paste the titles, abstracts, and permalinks. So that's part 1. Then part 2, what you're going to do is you're going to read through in depth all 3 of those articles. You're going to pick one that is 3 of those 3 that is for stretching, something that's clinically significant to you, something that you find meaningful, that you are actually going to do now. So it says, hey, don't do passive stretching before because it can do this. Or with that one article we found that we couldn't get, that say do it for 60 seconds. If you do it for longer than 60 seconds, then you get the detrimental effect if you do it less than 60 seconds. So that would be a perfect example. Go through and read through what they did just to confirm that the abstract is consistent with what they did and their outcomes, and share a little bit of how they calculated that, what they did, not the statistical analysis, but like what did they compare, how many people did they work with, and then you're going to do the same thing for one of the 3 articles that was negative. So you're going to stay away from this, or no, I'm going to include that. So that's this assignment. And again, really what the intent is just to get some exposure to using library resources, looking through research journals, understanding some statistics, but not so much. And then it's just starting to put together a defense or a support to justify your practice, right? And that's what where the fitness industry and the rehab industries are moving, even all of medicine, is this concept of evidence-based practice. And not just empirical evidence like research, but that combined with like what's best for the client or patient, and then your experience, what you're bringing to the table, and those 3 things coming together. That's what makes up that triad of evidence-based practice. And it starts with being able to go through these databases and look through articles. Now, another way of, if you're having a hard time with these search terms, I actually like using PubMed. And what's nice about PubMed is that you can, so let's see what they say about dynamic stretching. All right, so perfect. Here's one that I have to do really much search. First one, acute effects of dynamic stretching on flexibility and performance. So this could, you can see what they do here. Let's click on this. And let's look at the end here. Literature shows that inconsistent description is blah, blah, blah. So where's your outcome? What did you find? Okay, so this is actually great. I'm so glad I found this article because this is talking about just how some of the research out there of showing that why stretching is good or bad isn't so much that stretching is good or bad. It's just that it's inconsistent with terminology. When you say stretching is good, are you talking about static stretching, passive stretching? When you say it's good for what? Is it good for performance? Is it good for range of motion? Is it good for injury prevention? And the answer is yes or no, right? That there's not one stretching technique or modality that is good for everything and bad for nothing, right? There's risk versus benefit. So it's actually a cool article. Let's see, when was this published? A couple of years ago. So, but the interesting thing is that you might have the full text link, but the reason why I like PubMed is that when you go over here, you can click over here and you can see similar articles. So it kind of does like when you're shopping on Amazon and you were looking for like a portable hard drive or a Frisbee or a t-shirt or a hat, whatever you're looking for, and it'll give you like 5 other options. That's what PubMed does. So if you're having trouble trying to find some articles, or let's say you found an article that you liked, so we found this article. So if we go to this title and we highlight it, you just save this one. And I go to PubMed here and I put this in here. It should bring up that article right here. Yep, right there. And then since I like that article, I can see then what other similar articles. If I wanted to, I could search this researcher, this author, and I can see everything he's come up with. Right? So it gives you more options. Now the problem with PubMed is that you might not have access to the full text, but most of the PubMed full text articles are, I would say about 75 to 80% of them are available through the, it's just a different method search engine that you're using. The other thing you can do too is you can see who used this article in their research. So you can see who cited it. So not too much there. Let's see. Okay, so here's one. The effect of static and dynamic stretching exercise and sprint ability. So it's looking at muscle performance or sport performance, followed by static and dynamic. So again, let's click on this one and see. Okay, so this is, it teased out, looked at both the static and active, or static, what did they do? Static and dynamic, and it had a positive effect on the velocity. So it increased speed. So again, showing a positive. And so here's what's cool too, is that when you actually click in the article, you can see some of the protocols. So they did dynamic stretching. What do they do for static? The question is did they do, so this is where I would look in the full text article, is did they do both of these, or did they do one versus the other? If they did one versus the other, it's a good study. You can kind of see like, yeah, one was good, one was bad, or vice versa. But if they did a static and dynamic protocol, which one was the benefit, right? So anyways, this is kind of a basic introduction to the stretching or just to any kind of research. But you could research anything. You want to look at like ketogenic, right? If you want to look at diets, you can search here, right? You can look at magnesium supplementation. What kind of magnesium? You want to look at like threonate versus citrate versus. So again, instead of relying on marketing materials or people's opinions, you can actually go to the source and get an idea of what the research, what the evidence is sharing. So again, the tours or the this is a kind of your starting database. The other thing I want to point out is that if you do go to the Harper website for, so I got the link right here. If my video was too confusing, you could always do a live chat with a librarian, and they're there during normal business hours. Right now it's a little late at night, but you can either ask a question, start a chat if someone's available, and the resources are there. And every person in the library is super helpful and willing to give assistance. So both whether in person, live while you're there, or via phone, or particularly via online. So if you get stuck with anything, particularly with like a research aspect, feel free to shoot me an email, but definitely use this chat portal as well for needs. Outside of that, good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.